What if the single most powerful habit protecting your prostate takes less than 30 seconds to implement, and 90% of men over 60 are unknowingly doing the complete opposite every single day? What if the very routines you've carried for decades are quietly accelerating damage to one of the most important glands in your body, and nobody has ever sat you down and told you the truth about it? Hello, gentlemen. I'm Dr. Julia Rhodes, a men's sex therapist with over a decade of experience working with different couples and helping men regain their sexual health, strength, and confidence. Throughout my career, I've sat across from hundreds of men, strong, capable, accomplished men, who came to me feeling defeated, embarrassed, and completely powerless over what was happening inside their own bodies. Men who stopped traveling, men who stopped sleeping, men who quietly withdrew from the lives they worked so hard to build, all because of something they were told was simply a part of getting older. I'm here today to tell you that is not true, and I'm going to prove it to you with 5 daily habits that can prevent up to 70% of prostate problems before they ever take hold. I'm ranking them from surprising all the way to absolutely life-changing, and I promise you, by the time we reach habit number 1, you will never look at your daily routine the same way again. Right now, before we go any further, if you are serious about protecting your health, reclaiming your energy, and getting your strength back, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. Every single week, I share strategies that are genuinely transforming men's lives, and you do not want to miss a single one. Drop a comment below telling me where in the world you're watching from. I personally read every comment, and I love hearing from you. And please, stay with me all the way through to habit number 1, because that habit alone could change your life starting tonight. It costs absolutely nothing, it takes seconds to implement, and the results are nothing short of remarkable. Let's get into it. Now, here's what stopped me cold the very first time I reviewed the full body of research on this topic. By age 70, over 80% of men have enlarged prostates. 80%. That's not a small subset of unlucky men. That is the overwhelming majority. Yet study after study consistently shows that men who commit to these 5 specific habits experience 70% fewer symptoms than men who don't. Same age, same genetic background, completely different quality of life. The difference between those two groups isn't luck and it isn't genetics. It's 5 deliberate daily choices that most men never even think about. Before I walk you through each one, I need you to truly understand what has been happening inside your body, possibly for years, without you realizing it. Your prostate has been under continuous, cumulative assault for decades. By the time a man reaches 60, that small but incredibly important gland has been working non-stop for roughly 40 years. During that time, it has been exposed to chronic low-grade inflammation, hormonal fluctuations, poor circulation, oxidative stress, and accumulated cellular damage. This isn't something that happens suddenly. It doesn't announce itself. It builds silently, year after year, damage layering on top of damage, until one day the symptoms can no longer be ignored. That is precisely why benign prostatic hyperplasia, an enlarged prostate, affects more than half of all men by age 60 and climbs to 80% by the time men reach 70. And the symptoms that come with it? They can absolutely devastate a man's quality of life in ways that people who haven't lived through it simply cannot understand. I'm talking about waking up 3, 4, 5 times every single night just to urinate, never experiencing a full, uninterrupted night of sleep again, standing at the toilet for what feels like an eternity while a weak, stuttering stream barely manages to empty your bladder, feeling that burning urgency that demands your immediate attention and gives you almost no warning. Planning your entire day around bathroom locations, checking where the nearest restroom is before you sit down in a restaurant, dreading long car rides, canceling vacations, skipping family gatherings and social events, missing irreplaceable moments with your grandchildren because you're terrified of being too far from a bathroom when you need one. And perhaps the most painful part of all, the quiet shame of it. The way it makes a man feel like his body has become his enemy. But here's the truth I share with every single man I work with. This progression is not inevitable. It does not have to become your story. Research from Japan, analyzing comprehensive nationwide health data across thousands of men over many years, found conclusively that specific lifestyle habits can prevent or dramatically delay prostate problems in the overwhelming majority of men. These are not experimental findings. This is confirmed, reproducible science. The 5 habits I'm sharing today aren't vague wellness suggestions pulled from a magazine. Each one directly targets a specific biological mechanism driving prostate damage: chronic inflammation, poor pelvic circulation, hormonal disruption, cellular oxidation, and mechanical pressure on the gland itself. These are root causes, not symptoms. And when you address root causes, you get real, lasting results. Let me share a story that fundamentally changed the way I approach patient care. He was 68 years old, a retired engineer, and when he walked into my office for the first time, he looked completely and utterly broken. Not just tired, broken. He was waking up 6 times every single night. He hadn't slept more than 2 consecutive hours in over a year. His marriage was under enormous strain. He had stopped traveling. He had stopped making plans. He described himself as feeling like a prisoner trapped inside a body he no longer recognized or trusted. He told me he had already accepted that this was simply what aging felt like, that this was his life now. After implementing these 5 habits consistently for just 3 months, he was down to 1 nighttime bathroom trip. At his follow-up appointment, he sat across from me with tears running down his face and said words I will carry with me for the rest of my career. "Dr. Rhodes, I got my life back. I genuinely believed this was just what it meant to grow old." You don't have to accept that. And after today, you'll know exactly what to do instead. Habit number 5, walk 30 minutes every single day without exception. Most men think of walking as basic, low-impact cardiovascular exercise, something modest that helps with heart health or keeps the joints from stiffening up. They view it as the thing you do when you're not doing real exercise. They are missing an enormous and profoundly important piece of the picture. Walking is one of the most potent prostate protectors available to any man on earth. It requires no gym membership, no special equipment, no personal trainer, and no financial investment whatsoever. All it requires is 30 minutes and a commitment to showing up for yourself every single day. A landmark 2024 study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine tracked thousands of men over multiple years and produced findings that genuinely surprised even the researchers involved. Men whose cardiovascular fitness improved by just 3% annually were found to be 35% less likely to develop prostate cancer compared to men whose fitness declined over the same period. 35% risk reduction from walking. Let that sink in. Here is exactly why this works at a biological level. First, walking systematically reduces chronic inflammation throughout the entire body, including inside prostate tissue specifically. When you walk regularly, you are quite literally turning down the inflammatory processes that drive prostate enlargement and cellular damage. Think of it as cooling a fire that has been burning inside you for years. Second, walking dramatically improves blood circulation to the entire pelvic region. Better circulation means your prostate is receiving a consistent supply of fresh, oxygenated blood and vital nutrients, while metabolic waste products are being efficiently cleared away. You are giving your prostate exactly what it needs to function and heal. Third, regular walking helps maintain a healthy body weight, and obesity is a direct, documented accelerant of prostate enlargement through specific hormonal pathways that I'll address in habit number 2. Fourth, and often underestimated, walking significantly lowers cortisol and other stress-related hormones that worsen urinary urgency, increase nighttime bathroom trips, and amplify every symptom you're already dealing with. Harvard researchers who tracked over 30,000 men across multiple years confirmed all of this. Men who walked regularly had significantly fewer prostate symptoms than sedentary men, even when the walking was performed at only moderate intensity. Here is my exact prescription: 30 minutes of walking every single day without exception. You can accomplish this as one continuous 30-minute walk or as 3 separate 10-minute walks spread throughout the day. The benefits are comparable. Walk at a pace where you can still hold a conversation, but where you can feel your heart rate rising slightly. That's your target zone. One of my patients was 67 years old and had been almost completely sedentary for over a decade. A desk career followed by a retirement spent largely on the couch. His symptoms were severe: 5 nighttime bathroom trips, a consistently weak stream, and constant urgency that ruled his every waking hour. After committing to 30 minutes of daily walking for just 8 weeks, his nighttime trips dropped from 5 to 2. His stream strength returned noticeably. He told me he felt genuinely energized and hopeful for the first time in years. Walking changed his trajectory before we even addressed the other 4 habits. Habit number 4. Limit alcohol to 3 drinks per week. Total, not per day. This one surprises nearly every patient I work with, because for decades, the messaging around alcohol has been that moderate drinking is perfectly fine, perhaps even beneficial. Here is the nuanced, honest truth I share with every man over 60 who sits across from me. After this age, what most people consider moderate drinking can significantly and measurably aggravate prostate problems. Research from Japan demonstrated clearly that reducing alcohol consumption was critical for preventing prostate enlargement in aging men. But when researchers drilled deeper into the data, they found something even more important. Even moderate alcohol consumption after age 60 produces measurable negative changes in prostate health. This isn't about excessive drinking. This is about a biological reality that changes as your body ages. The mechanisms are well understood. Alcohol amplifies systemic inflammation throughout the entire body, including directly within prostate tissue. Inflammation, as I've already explained, is one of the primary drivers of prostate enlargement and cellular damage. Every drink adds fuel to that fire. Beyond inflammation, alcohol throws your hormonal balance into serious disarray. It suppresses testosterone production while simultaneously elevating estrogen levels. For men over 60, whose hormonal balance is already shifting naturally, this additional disruption is particularly harmful. Elevated estrogen combined with decreased testosterone creates a hormonal environment that actively accelerates prostate cell growth. And alcohol doesn't stop there. It directly irritates the bladder lining, worsening urinary urgency and frequency, the very symptoms you're trying to improve. It disrupts sleep architecture, robbing you of the deep, restorative sleep your body needs to recover. And it dehydrates you, concentrating your urine and creating additional irritation overnight. My specific clinical recommendation: no more than 3 drinks for the entire week. Not per evening, not per day, for the whole week. Spread those drinks across different days. Never consume more than 2 drinks in a single sitting. And maintain at least 1 to 2 completely alcohol-free days between any drinking occasions. I had a patient who had been drinking 4 to 5 drinks every single evening for decades. It was deeply embedded into his routine, his way of unwinding, his reward at the end of the day. His symptoms were severe. Constant, overwhelming urgency, a stream so weak it barely functioned, and bathroom trips literally every hour through the night. His wife had relocated to a separate bedroom because his constant movement and frequent bathroom trips made sleep impossible for her. After cutting his consumption to 3 drinks per week total, his body began responding within 4 weeks. By the 8-week mark, his nighttime trips had dropped from 6 to 2. He sat across from me with genuine emotion and said, "I genuinely believed alcohol was helping me relax and decompress. I had no idea it was systematically destroying my prostate the entire time I thought I was taking care of myself." Habit number 3. Eat cooked tomatoes at least 3 times every week. Of every dietary intervention with documented evidence for prostate health, cooked tomatoes stand alone at the top of the evidence hierarchy. This is not a trend. This is not alternative medicine. This is one of the most consistently replicated findings in prostate health research over the past 2 decades. Tomatoes are extraordinarily rich in lycopene, a powerful carotenoid antioxidant that specifically and directly protects prostate cells from oxidative damage. Oxidative stress is one of the key mechanisms driving both prostate enlargement and abnormal cell growth. Lycopene essentially neutralizes that process at the cellular level, acting as a shield for your prostate tissue. But here is the critical detail that most people, including many healthcare providers, completely overlook. Cooked tomatoes deliver dramatically more bioavailable lycopene than raw tomatoes. The heat from cooking breaks down the plant cell walls that would otherwise prevent your digestive system from properly extracting and absorbing the lycopene. Eating a raw tomato is healthy, absolutely, but for prostate protection specifically, cooking that tomato transforms it into a fundamentally more powerful tool. Research published in peer-reviewed journals found that men who consumed cooked tomatoes just twice per week experienced a 28% lower risk of prostate cancer compared to men who rarely or never ate them. Additional studies linked higher lycopene intake to measurably reduced prostate enlargement and slower disease progression in men already diagnosed with BPH. 28%. From tomatoes. That is not a small or insignificant finding. Here is the protocol. 3 servings of cooked tomatoes every week, incorporated naturally into meals you're already preparing. Tomato sauce over pasta. A rich marinara as a base for lean proteins. Tomato-based soups and stews. Roasted tomatoes as a side dish. Tomatoes cooked into curries or braised dishes. The options are genuinely endless. One additional enhancement worth knowing. Lycopene is fat-soluble, meaning your body absorbs it significantly more efficiently when consumed alongside healthy fats. Adding olive oil to your tomato-based dishes, which you should be doing regardless for its own anti-inflammatory benefits, boosts lycopene absorption substantially. A single serving is roughly half a cup of tomato sauce, or approximately 1 cup of whole cooked tomatoes. A patient of mine who committed to this protocol, 3 tomato-based meals per week, supplemented with cruciferous vegetables and a daily handful of pumpkin seeds for additional zinc, saw his PSA levels retreat from borderline high back into the normal range within 6 months. His specialist was genuinely impressed by what dietary changes alone had accomplished. Habit number 2. Reach and maintain a healthy weight. Even just 10% makes a measurable difference. This habit has implications for virtually every system in your body, but the prostate connection is particularly direct, particularly well documented, and frankly, more alarming than most men realize until they see the research laid out in front of them. Obesity does not merely raise the statistical risk of prostate cancer. Studies have consistently linked excess body weight, particularly visceral abdominal fat, to more aggressive forms of prostate disease, higher rates of disease progression, and significantly elevated mortality. A comprehensive 2022 study found direct, linear, measurable connections between waist circumference, sedentary behavior, visceral belly fat, and enlarged prostate size. The relationship was not complicated. The more abdominal fat a man carries, the faster his prostate grows, and the larger it becomes. Here is why this happens at a hormonal level, because understanding the mechanism is what makes the habit stick. Visceral fat, the deep abdominal fat that accumulates around your organs, is hormonally active tissue. It doesn't just sit there. It actively produces inflammatory compounds and disrupts the hormonal signaling systems your body depends on. Specifically, it dramatically elevates systemic inflammation, raises estrogen and insulin levels, and simultaneously suppresses testosterone production. For a man over 60, this hormonal environment, elevated estrogen, elevated insulin, suppressed testosterone, is essentially a perfect storm for prostate problems. It accelerates cellular growth in the prostate gland, increases the risk of abnormal cell development, and worsens every urinary symptom simultaneously. Here is the encouraging reality that I want every man to hold on to. You do not need to become an athlete. You do not need to return to the physique of your 30s. Research is clear that losing just 10% of your current body weight produces significant, measurable improvements in prostate health outcomes. For a 220-pound man, that's 22 pounds. For a 180-pound man, that's 18 pounds. Not a transformation, a 10% reduction. That's achievable. My sustainable approach centers entirely on portion control, rather than restrictive, unsustainable dieting. Reduce your portions by 20 to 25% at every meal. Use a slightly smaller plate. It genuinely works. Stop eating when you reach 80% full rather than stuffed. Prioritize vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, whole grains, and healthy fats from sources like nuts, fatty fish, and olive oil. Reduce red meat consumption. Eliminate processed and packaged foods as much as practically possible. Cut added sugars wherever you can. Combined with daily walking, which you'll be doing from habit 5, this approach creates steady, gradual, sustainable weight loss without the inevitable failure cycle of extreme dieting. One patient came to me at age 62, carrying 240 pounds. His prostate was significantly enlarged on examination, and his symptoms were severe across every measure. After losing 25 pounds over 6 months through consistent portion reduction and daily walking, his symptoms improved dramatically across the board. His follow-up examination revealed a measurably smaller prostate, not stabilized, actually smaller. He looked at me in genuine disbelief and said, "I had no idea that losing weight could physically change what was happening inside my prostate. I thought those two things had nothing to do with each other." Habit number 1, never hold your urine. Respond to every urge immediately. This is it. This is the single most damaging daily habit for your prostate, and the single most powerful daily habit you can change. And what genuinely breaks my heart every single day in my work is knowing that 90% of men over 60 are doing this multiple times every day, completely unaware of the cumulative harm they are causing to themselves. I need you to understand the full mechanism here, because once you understand what is physically happening inside your body when you hold urine, you will never choose to do it again. When your bladder becomes overfull, it stretches, and as it stretches, it presses down directly onto your prostate, which is anatomically positioned immediately below the bladder. This is not a coincidence of anatomy that you can work around. It is unavoidable. Every time your bladder is overfull, it is applying direct mechanical pressure to your prostate tissue. Over days, weeks, months, and years, that pressure causes chronic irritation, persistent inflammation, and progressive swelling of the gland. The prostate responds to that chronic mechanical insult the same way any tissue responds to repeated injury. It changes, it enlarges, it becomes reactive. But that's only the beginning. The bladder itself suffers from habitual overdistension. The muscular walls of the bladder are designed to contract and expand within a specific functional range. When you repeatedly stretch the bladder far beyond that range by holding urine, the muscle fibers are progressively damaged. Over time, the bladder loses its ability to contract efficiently, which is exactly why men who habitually hold urine often develop difficulty fully emptying their bladders later. You've been training your bladder to fail. And finally, stagnant urine sitting in an overfull bladder for extended periods becomes a favorable environment for bacterial growth and inflammatory byproducts. That creates an additional chemical irritation of the bladder lining and the surrounding prostate tissue. Damage compounding on top of damage, day after day. Research consistently confirms that timely voiding prevents bladder overdistension, reduces direct pressure on the prostate, and prevents the long-term cumulative structural damage that leads to the symptoms men dread most. Yet, most men hold it routinely and think nothing of it. They hold it through meetings because stepping out would feel unprofessional. They hold it on long drives because stopping would feel inconvenient. They hold it during errands because they're almost done and they'll go when they get home. They hold it watching television because they're settled comfortably on the couch. Every single time, they are inflicting silent, invisible damage on their prostate. Damage that builds without any immediate warning signal until the symptoms eventually become impossible to ignore. The solution is the simplest of all 5 habits, and yet it is the most immediately powerful. When you feel the urge to urinate, you go. Not in 5 minutes, not at the commercial break, not when you finish what you're doing. Right now, immediately, you go. Plan your daily routine around having reliable bathroom access. When you're traveling or anticipating periods without available facilities, manage your fluid intake slightly beforehand rather than routinely holding for hours. Never, under any circumstances, delay when your body is telling you it's time. I worked with a patient, a 64-year-old trial attorney, who had built an entire professional identity around his ability to ignore physical discomfort. He routinely held urine for 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours during long depositions and court proceedings. He considered it discipline. He wore it as a badge of professional toughness. By the time he came to see me, he had developed severe urgency that arrived with almost no warning, a stream so weak it took 5 minutes to empty partially, and a bladder that could no longer fully empty at all. When I explained precisely what he had been doing to his prostate and his bladder for years, something shifted in him visibly. He committed completely to responding immediately from that point forward. Within 6 weeks, his symptoms had improved dramatically. At his follow-up, he sat across from me and said, "I spent years believing I was being strong and disciplined. I was slowly destroying one of the most important organs in my body, and I was proud of it. This single change did more for me than anything else." This is habit number 1 because it is simultaneously the most powerful, the easiest to implement, the least expensive, and the fastest to produce results. You can begin tonight. You can begin right now. Now here is your complete implementation plan. Tonight, implement habit 1 immediately. From this exact moment forward, you respond to every urge to urinate without delay. No exceptions. This begins now. Tomorrow morning, your first 30-minute walk. Schedule it in your calendar as a non-negotiable appointment. Treat it with the same seriousness as a medical procedure, because that is essentially what it is. Tomorrow at breakfast, reduce your portion by 20%. Use a smaller plate. Eat slowly. Stop at 80% full. Build this habit from your very next meal. This week, write down every drink you consume. Be honest with yourself. Cut your total to 3 drinks maximum for the entire week. Track it carefully. This week, go to the store and buy tomatoes and tomato sauce. Plan 3 tomato-based meals for this week and actually prepare them. Make it part of your routine from day 1. Track your progress methodically. In week 1, record your baseline. How many times per night are you waking to urinate? Write it down. In weeks 2 through 4, continue tracking weekly. Most men notice measurable, meaningful improvement within just 2 to 4 weeks of consistent habit change. By weeks 6 through 8, expect symptoms to improve by 40 to 60%. Nighttime trips decrease, stream strength returns, urgency lessens, sleep improves, energy returns. 2 additional recommendations worth emphasizing. If you currently smoke, stop completely. Smoking worsens prostate problems through multiple independent mechanisms and significantly accelerates every aspect of the damage I've described today. And beginning at age 60, schedule an annual prostate screening without fail. early detection means early lifestyle intervention. And lifestyle intervention, as you now know, works. One final patient story. A man who implemented all 5 of these habits systematically, exactly as I've described, returned to me at his 6-month follow-up with results that moved both of us. His prostate size had stabilized rather than continuing to grow. His symptom score had improved by over 60%. His sleep had returned. His energy had returned, and he looked at me with an expression I will never forget and said, "Dr. Rhodes, these 5 habits gave me my life back. I avoided surgery. I sleep through the entire night. I travel again. I'm present with my family again. I feel like myself for the first time in years." That is what this is about. Not statistics, not clinical data. A man getting his life back. In summary, by age 70, 80% of men have enlarged prostates. That is statistical reality. But enlargement does not have to mean suffering. It does not have to mean surgery. It does not have to mean surrendering the life you've worked so hard to build. The 5 habits that protect your prostate after 60. Number 5, walk 30 minutes daily without exception. Number 4, limit alcohol to 3 drinks per week total. Number 3, eat cooked tomatoes at least 3 times weekly. Number 2, maintain a healthy weight through sensible portion control. Number 1, never hold your urine. Respond immediately, every time. Men who practice these habits consistently experience 70% fewer symptoms than men who don't. That is not a marginal improvement. That is the difference between suffering and living fully. These are not complicated medical procedures. They are not expensive treatments. They are simple, daily decisions that are entirely within your control, starting today. Gentlemen, prostate problems are not inevitable. Your daily habits determine your outcome far more than your genetics or your age, and you have far more power over this than you have ever been told. If this video gave you something real today, a piece of information, a shift in understanding, a reason for hope, please give it a like right now. It takes 1 second and it helps me reach more men who are sitting at home right now, struggling alone, not knowing that help is this close. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on your notifications so you never miss the strategies and insights I share every single week. And please, share this with a man in your life who needs to hear it. A father, a brother, a close friend, a neighbor. You may never know how much that single act of sharing changes his life. I'm Dr. Julia Rhodes. I will see you in the next one.